Welcome to Insight Live, the IT Experts Take. I'm Jason Rader, and I'll be your host today as we talk about reimagining the role of technology in education. With me today, we have some great colleagues of mine that we're going to talk about this topic with. We have Colleen Flannery. Welcome, Colleen, who's the CTO of Chandler Unified School District. And we have Joe McAllister, who is an education esports expert with us here at Insight. Welcome, Joe. And off camera, but will probably join us a little bit, Stephanie Ingersoll, who's the Executive Director of Marketing and Communications for Chandler Unified School District as well. Welcome, Stephanie, off camera. So a really cool topic today. I'm really excited to talk about this because I really love technology and I'm really an advocate of education, and how we can leverage those things together makes me super happy. But I think we probably should kick off with our survey because I think there's some valid things going on, maybe perception versus reality going on with that. So thanks to all of you who filled out the survey. We had a huge amount actually this time. And the survey question was, what do you think is the biggest way schools leverage technology? And the answers were in-person classroom, extracurriculars, i.e. esports, or remote and hybrid learning. And overwhelmingly, they said remote and hybrid learning. So that was 75%. 25% said in-person classroom. And sorry, Joe, 0% said extracurriculars. So we're here to dispel that myth for sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. But, and so kicking off with that, we're going to kind of refer back to it as we go. Colleen, tell me a little bit I dropped those results on you earlier, you kind of had a comment related to that.
Well, it was interesting because that's what people's perception is. And it was that way, in March 2020, when we all started to react to the pandemic, that mostly it was remote. It wasn't even hybrid learning. And then as we progressed into the pandemic, it morphed into more hybrid and then some remote for some of our students. And now most of our technology use is in the classroom and esports.
So we can't say esports without talking about esports. So Tell us a little bit about what you do, Joe.
Yeah. So, especially, it's interesting that, when we look back at, March 2020, like that is what we were spending a lot of our time on, was the hybrid. But I actually saw a large uptick in esports during that time too, just because there were no other things to do on campus, right? Like you could actually have esports be remote and we could be socially distanced and be okay. So we've seen actually a bit of an uptick, but I work with schools on their esports programs, a lot of education, helping folks understand what this is, why it makes sense in schools, talk about soft skill development for students, career pathways, collegiate pathways, those types of things for folks to, wrap their heads around why this makes sense in a school and what value it can bring to students.
Awesome. And Colleen, personal experience related to esports being adopted within your environment?
So when I stepped into the role as a leader in technology, it was something that hadn't been embraced by our department. And as I heard how many students were attracted to it, I wasn't a gamer. I make fun of the games I played when I was younger, but try to understand it and how we could use it and leverage esports to get kids connected to our schools and want to come to Chandler and be a part of something bigger. And so I met Joe probably 6 months ago and talked to him and said, hey, we wanted to start something up. And after talking to him, and his passion equals our passion for kids and what esports can do. And he really helped us set a direction for Chandler to start an esports program and really connect kids. In fact, as we progress down this path, there's more students interested in this than physical sports. And how do we change how we think and provide opportunities for students? And a lot of people think, oh, it's just a game, and there's some judgment from physical sports to esports. But as Joe stated, there are so many soft skills and there's technical skills. There's a lot of value to esports than just playing a game. And how do we look at that as a school district and connect kids and educate kids and create really great environments for them to collaborate with other schools and other districts.
Nice.
And that's not uncommon either, right? With Colleen coming in and kind of realizing that not a lot of folks are looking at this, when you don't understand it, it's difficult to wrap your mind around. And when folks look at traditional sport, it's competition, right? And you get the teamwork, the communication, all those lovely skills. We get that with esports, but then we can reach into a lot of other areas, right? Marketing, computer science, there's a lot of different areas that we can reach into, the arts, that students are really pulled into, because there's a Pew Research article that says that 72% of kids between 13 and 17 consider themselves gamers now. So like, it's a huge swath of our population. And at the end of the day, I'm all about the students, right? Giving them the best experience, giving them the best opportunities, and developing skills. And so esports is a tool for that. And you can do it across, and that, you mentioned that it can be more popular than traditional sport. And folks don't understand that it is more than just a competition, right? Like, you're building a program, and you're building, there's lots of folks behind the scenes who are not even playing. And so there's a lot of opportunities for students there.
Agreed.
I definitely see that. I mean, I remember literally the first year they brought in a computer class in my high school, and that was kind of faddish, if you will. And they were, and now look at where we are from that perspective. I think we consider a lot of programs incomplete without something addressing computers to a certain degree, or technology in general. So what does that program kind of look like, Joe? We've talked about it. So if it's not just a competition, what does kind of a overall esports program look like? And feel free, Colleen, to chime in whenever necessary.
Well, we're just, Joe's the expert, right? We learned that earlier. It's in his title. We're just starting, and what it looks like in Chandler is excitement and passion, and so many kids that are interested and want to be a part of it. And what we're trying to do is work with Joe and develop a program that is meaningful for kids, that we are developing more. We're just not playing the game. We're developing a team, and what does that look like? What kind of space do they need to be successful, and what kind of equipment do the kid attracts the kids? If we don't have stuff here that they that's better than what they have at home, or at least equal to, why am I going to be engaged in Chandler's esports program? So we've worked really closely in Chandler to start that development. And one of the things at Chandler is we have some coaches that are very experienced, and some that are just really nice people, and they really want this to work for kids. And so Joe's helping us with that. And how do we create some professional development for coaches, and give them the tools they need to oversee the kids and coach the kids?
Yeah, and like what Chandler's doing is in my opinion, the correct way to go about it, right? So we're starting with the competitive, getting kids interested, figuring out where we're going to go from there, right? So we're working on professional development for the coaches, and then eventually we'll have kids come forward that want to do streaming, that want to do social media, that they want to do other roles inside of this. You'll have kids who want to develop games, and Chandler's building out their game design program, right? And that's in concert with this. And like, as you trying to do it all at once is very difficult. So I usually have folks do it, this is our goals for year one. Then year two, we might add streaming. In year three, we might start doing more social media. And that's for a number of reasons, just, human bandwidth is one of them. And, acceptance by the community to help them understand what's going on. Education of the community is really important. So, but like looking at a holistic program, when you've got it all built out, you've got kids running social media, you've got kids running intramural events, you've got students competing for a state championship, competing for a national championship, you got kids potentially getting collegiate scholarship, kids who are getting picked up by esports and gaming organizations to run their communities, to be able to, go into design of games, to go into artwork of games, community management. There's a lot of opportunities for students that we can give them some real life experience in the high school and even middle school space.
And Jason, you talked about that, like computers being offered when you were a student. And I see this the same way. Is it's a whole community. There's an ecosystem built around it. I think I read a couple of days ago, 220 colleges offer scholarships. There's jobs in that area. And so it's not just, something for kids to participate in, but they can grow and select a career and, create a nice career for themselves.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I love that whole ecosystem kind of mentality about it, because yeah, it's more than just the playing of whatever the game happens to be. And I love the whole social aspect. I mean, you can have people doing streaming and commentating on the whole thing. I mean, there's all of that, and that is a really smart approach to it. And being a security person, which I am, I think about cybersecurity is a big deal, and schools, have a lot of the similar, well, if not exactly the same kind of situations from talent and those kinds of things. Do you see security playing into this as well, or being an impediment or an enabler?
Well, I think security in general, after the pandemic, has become front and center for K-12 schools. And, esports is just a part of the entire cybersecurity ecosystem. Let's use that word again, right? Definitely, because there are things that happen in esports that you don't want to necessarily have happen during the day, right? And you want to make sure that you're providing the most conducive learning environment for students, whatever they're doing. So when we are looking at esports, we do have to consider what are the security measures we're putting in place to make that a safe place for kids to congregate, to operate in. So it's a little part of our conversation, and we're learning, working with Joe, and how do we set this up and scale it so we're making decisions that are not just for today but for tomorrow. But also in general, we are having lots of security conversations in K-12 because as you know, many businesses did this. We purchased this application, we went home, we hybrid this, more devices. And even though it's been 2 years, we're still trying to catch up. And how do we really audit what we did and what we're doing, and make good decisions? But on the other hand, is not say no to things like esports, because nope, security, we can't do it. It's working with folks like Joe and other districts. Like, how do we solve this? How do we be creative to engage kids and offer them the things they want and protect our kids? So it's not about no, it's like, how can we, and being creative. And I'm very thankful that Joe's part of that in our journey. So we are, we have more than ourselves to talk to, and we have that great partnership.
Fantastic. Well, I won't need any ego building after this. But no, it's a conversation that comes up all the time, right? Especially when people don't know about this and don't understand the benefits, and don't have the same attitude as Colleen of, how can we figure this out? It can be a barrier to well, this isn't secure, and there is a secure way to do it. It's not a cookie cutter approach. We have to look at, what systems you have in place and what could be potential issues, but we're not reinventing the wheel either, right? So there's hundreds and hundreds of schools who've done this across the country now, hundreds of colleges who've done this across the country. So understanding the unique struggles of a K-12 institution in this space is not insurmountable. And I think we're learning that across the board when it comes to security.
And from my perspective, it's really opened up. I'm very collaborative in nature, but esports is something that I can go to any tech director and say, what are you doing about this? How are you solving problems? What have worked for you? Or why aren't you doing it? How can we help each other? And it's really opened doors to really going beyond our walls, and really looking at, as an institution, of, this is going to be part of how we do business, and how do we, use each other's knowledge and success to grow.
I love it. And I think, as we talk about all of these parts of the ecosystem, security being one of them, there's, especially in K through 12, it's, there, you can have really great programs like esports or whatever, but having the right folks to facilitate that program on staff is always a struggle. Cybersecurity is a struggle in everywhere, to have the right folks on staff. Tell me what you're thinking about as far as leveraging your own folks to be part of that program.
So I think we look at it in a number of different ways. Is, we have as Joe mentioned, a game design class that you don't necessarily have somebody that comes out of college with a teaching cert that's for game design, right? Because technology is accelerating faster, and what kind of skills we need to teach kids goes faster than the degrees available. So how do we partner with different industry leaders, or how do we, local businesses, to upskill our teachers and create curriculum that is meaningful and that really provides experiences that gets the kids workforce ready, right? So, that's one thing, is what are we teaching and how do we partner? But the other thing is, in everything that we do, is just when, how do we, if we don't if we can't scale our own, because that we'll talk about that, but how do we partner with people like Insight and other partners to either provide training for our folks or services, that fill in our gaps. And then I would say the third part of that is really focusing on our staff. And, if you're interested in cyber, how can I get you some training, or how can I connect you with Jason Radar at Insight, and we can upskill. We have a cybersecurity program here in Chandler at 2 of our campuses. And, hey, if you guys aren't interested in going to work outside, are you guys interested in working for Chandler? So we have to look at all the different areas. As a IT leader, I'm really worried about K-12 and having the right folks in our departments with the right skills, because technology is not leaving education. It's only going to accelerate and grow and grow. And how do we get the right workforce that supports that? Because these are the kids that are, that it's our future, and they're all going to impact the world in a way. And we really need to provide them with the best environment. So we look at it as a number of different ways, but, we're always open. Call Stephanie Ingersoll. She's in charge of our business alliances. And if there's a creative way to partner to either scale our own or partner with an industry to help our students, we're all about that.
I think that's great. I think what I love about it is, you hear people joke, and I know it's not a fair comparison, but like, I went through a whole nother day and I didn't use algebra kind of thing. They think about those kinds of things, but obviously we're not doing a great job linking those things to the career choices. And I think what the way that you're talking about the programmatic application of this from an esports perspective, is that ecosystem, right? Show them that there's something that you can do, that this helps you in college, this helps you in your career, this helps society in general. And that's a really, thinking that way is a big culture shift, in my opinion, of the way that we've got to think about these things. And I love that, because we're about transformation ourselves, right?
And it's interesting. I actually just had that conversation last night about how algebra, what does it mean? Because we were talking about what's relevant in education. And I really do think we need to rethink literacy. Everybody's reading, writing, but what about digital literacy? What about cybersecurity? What are the things that, as a human in this society, what do I need to be literate about? And how does that impact my personal life, my career? And that those conversations are going on. And really, I think, Jason, you hit the nail on the head. How do what we provide as in content, how do we apply that in real life, whether it's personally for a career? And that really is the shift in the thinking. And I'm really fortunate to be a part of a leadership team here in Chandler that's really examining that. How do we reimagine education so we're it's relevant, and it will lead to success, whether it's personal or professional, and make it, how do I understand that, algebra is computational thinking, and that'll serve me well everywhere, right? No matter what profession, and breaking it down to that. Oh, Joe's shaking his head. He's like, yes, but it really is. And it, we've done this education thing for a long time, 150 years. So it's, how do we really, leverage technology to change that and use it? Interesting. I read a quote yesterday from Thomas Edison, and he was convinced that the motion picture was going to change education and we wouldn't have textbooks. I don't remember the specific quote, but he said that. And it's not the technology. It's going to help the movement, but it's really teachers and how we think about what education is and what we need to provide for students.
As a math teacher, this question, I taught math for 6 years. So, when am I going to use algebra and all those types of things? And I will not go on my soapbox there, because that's a rant. But
and I think that everybody doesn't realize how much algebra they use. That was my point.
Absolutely.
Well, right. I mean, just the like computational thinking, or just critical thinking and solving, right, in a logical manner, is what, really you should get out of math classes in high school. Is more like, hey, here's a material that you know nothing about. Let's work on how logic and how you can, take skills that you've learned previously that are in your toolbox, and then apply them to things that are related but extended, right? And you do that all the time in your job, right? Like, no matter what you're doing, like, here's a task, you're going to be given another task that is related to that, but you have to extend it, right? And that's what we're constantly doing in mathematics. But Yeah, no, and I've seen a lot more collaboration between higher ed institutions and industry and the K-12 space. I mean, in esports, in a lot of different areas, where trying to understand, like as the technology accelerates, what is needed, right? So if you're looking for our students to go into your collegiate program or go into your workforce, what's needed? What skills do we need to focus on there? And there's the 4 C's that came out of a CEO poll, right? So to understand what companies actually look for in students, and then focus our curriculum and education around there, while still, in the confines of a traditional school and what we're held accountable for. So,
And we really see it, Joe, as you again hit the nail on the head. Great job. And if you want a math job, we're always looking for math teachers that are excited.
Whoa, whoa,
And
whoa.
esports coach. But it's more about content. Like, it's about the learning experience and applying knowledge, and how do we use technology to support that, whether it's computational design thinking. And really, that's the challenge we have, is that content has been really the focus of education for a long time, and not the skills or the application of it. And really, how do we start that in kindergarten, and work our way through, so when kids are, whether they leave to be employed or enrolled or enlisted, they have those skills to be successful in anything they choose to do.
Love it. And I think all of these things, back to the motion picture quote, all of these things, I think what we're realizing is they're just tools. It's how you leverage those tools and how you approach these tools that's the important aspect of it all.
I mean, I think there's important things with technology that we need to teach students, to have some basic literacy, whether it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, coding. I mean, just understanding the basics, and teaching some literacy around that. But the technology itself, it's going to change, and it's going to accelerate, and there's going to be different things. It's just understanding how it works behind it, and how it works in the systems that they interact with.
And one of the first things I did when I left teaching to come into this space was working with schools on, why would a teacher start using a Chromebook? Why would they start using an iPad? Why would they start introducing technology to the classroom when what they've been doing has been working for them, right? So helping them understand what the tool can do for them, right? So like, you don't have to run 50 copies of something. It's already there in your learning management system, right? Or let's say you wanted to pivot to, we had this awesome discussion about this topic that's tangential to what we were talking about, and I'd love the kids to do some more dive deeper into that topic. That's 2 clicks and you've changed the assignment for tonight, right? Like, just looking at it as a tool rather than, like the Thomas Edison quote. And like, there's a YouTube video that has like a bunch of those things in it, where it's like Thomas Edison saying that, and then like how computers are going to change, and then how VR is going to change education, and all these things. Cause it's, the same rhetoric over again. Like, oh, this is going to revolutionize education. It's like, well, education's education. We'll use these tools to enhance and impact the learning.
It's and the educators that have to embrace it and change.
Exactly. And I think, what Joe said is, teachers' resources are finite, right? They have, I always like to talk about the plate, and we keep adding more. And to me, technology is that tool. Is, if we want them teaching and mentoring, helping kids apply skills, is how do we use technology to support teachers in the classroom, and take off that plate, and not keep it adding to it. And exactly, like, how can we use this for efficiencies, productivity? How can kids be in charge of their own learning? There's all sorts of different things, and it's really showing that angle with technology.
Yeah. I love that. I think, that's also interesting, because kind of like computers back in my old days, is that a lot of the teachers, the educators themselves, were just learning how to use computers. And that might be the case in a lot of these K through 12 environments, especially when we're getting to like esports, or talking about some things related to that may be completely foreign to them. And, again, we could look at it as, we're just going to drop a whole bunch of stuff that you have to figure out on them, or we could, empower these guys and get them excited. And, there doesn't necessarily have to be this giant gap between what a teacher has to figure out as well as what the students have to figure out. It can be a learning process together. I mean, just thinking outside of that standard paradigm that we kind of got stuck in a while ago, I'm excited about the way that technology can be a catalyst for that as well.
And we also look at it as like the whole learning experience. Like, it's okay, teacher, if your students teach you something.
Totally.
That's what we want. I
Yeah.
learned something as a tech leader every day from somebody in my department, outside, you all, folks like that. So how do we create that same environment? And the kids might know a faster way to do something, or, hey, teacher, you put up a parking lot where kids give each other advice, or put, tips up there for the teacher. But that's, it's not about having to be even on par with the students, but going out there and trying, and also being okay with failure. Like, sometimes we'll try things with tech that it's not successful, and that's okay, because that's real life, right? let's
I
let's
could show you a bunch of
evaluate,
Fortune
like,
500 companies that did the
yeah,
same.
look at it and determine what went wrong or why it didn't work, and then try again. And really modeling that kind of mindset is really important for our students.
And like a lot of teachers, their classroom management revolves around them being, that central figure of the classroom, and having them understand that, kids can Google anything, right? So like, you aren't the one source of information anymore, right? And like, for some folks, especially in my field, they felt like, well, I'm the authority on this information, so what I say is correct. Whereas, and that's how they manage their classroom, and like that works to a point. And it's moving from, one of my favorite kind of sayings around this is moving from sage on the stage to guide
Right.
on the side, right? So being a facilitator of education, helping them understand how to learn on their own. And a lot of these students are doing this anyways for things that they're really passionate about. And actually, one of the things that comes up in esports all the time is, we talk about public speaking, we talk about being prepared for those kind of opportunities, and developing those skills in kids. And like, I had projects I had to do in math classes, and kids are like, oh, it's like pulling teeth getting them to submit things and grading them on a rubric, all these types of things. But time and time again, there's opportunities for kids to stand up and talk in front of their peers, in front of other folks around this idea, because there is so much education that needs to be done. Kids who would never talk in front of the class are walking their competitive team through all of the patch note changes that have happened, and how it's going to affect their hero, and how it could affect the other team playing against them, right? And they're doing in-depth analysis on this and presenting it out because they love it, and we're still giving them the opportunity to speak. And then one of my favorite stories, and then I'll stop on this because I can go on forever. But a young man was up running for office in his esports club for like treasurer or VP, one of those titles, and there was a parapro at the back who's crying, and this kid's going on and talking about what he's doing. And I wasn't there, but one of my good friends was, and he said, "What's going on?" He's like, "That kid's nonverbal in school. That kid doesn't talk." And here he is campaigning to be part of this because it means that much to them. And so, like, I'd love every kid to be intrinsically motivated about school, but sometimes we got to put carrots on sticks. We got to provide other opportunities for them to show that they can do this and to get them comfortable with it. So those are just, some of the things that I wanted to touch on there.
Well, I mean, you're a great story though to share. Like, you were a math teacher. You went your degrees in math, and now you're an esports expert. And how did you transition? And it's about how you learn and how you take that new knowledge and apply it, and become an expert in it. And that's what we need to grow in our students.
Love it.
Jobs that didn't exist, right?
Right.
Like, I'm
Exactly.
like, my job did not exist in high school. There was
Right.
no pathway to go to to be where I am right now, so like, knowing that all these, and I wouldn't be in the position I am now without all of the experiences that I had, right? So wrestling is a big part of that. My mother being in IT my entire life, teaching, being actively interested in technology through my teaching, like that all just led to where I am now.
Love it. Well, I am thrilled to have people who are passionate and big thinkers that can talk about a topic like this, because it's really awesome. And I don't think I've ever almost cried on one of these shows, Joe, but you almost got me there on that last one.
It's a brutal story. Like, I'm not brutal in a bad way, but like, whew.
But I would like to kind of close this this episode with, and maybe Colleen, from your perspective, words of encouragement to folks that are just taking a look at this, and maybe Joe, same, like kind of what do they do next? Motivational things. Where do they go? What do they do? What's on the other side of this thing once they do it?
Well, as you stated earlier, my two passions are education and technology. So I'm always looking for folks that want to help us, reimagine education and be part of this. I really think that if we unleash the passion of these students and the potential of them, we're going to, have an impact on the world that we had no idea we could. And so it's really imperative that we get partnerships and people involved in, what does this new way look like? And how do we provide this to kids so, they have opportunities to move wherever they want to go in their life, and they're prepared for the choices they want to make.
Yeah, and for me, it's that collaboration that Colleen mentioned earlier. She can go to other IT directors, other folks, and ask questions, and just being open to that, right? Answering questions for other folks and asking questions of other people in your area, people across the country. There's communities for all this, whether it be esports, cybersecurity, whatever it is. There are people who are passionate about this, who are happy to help, and obviously folks like myself who want to help, who want to further this because it's what's in the best interest of the students. And there's, like 6 years ago when I started this, there wasn't a lot of information or a lot of people, but there's more now. There's a lot more, and there's online communities, there's local communities. You can go to regional conferences, and there will be a group there talking about each and every one of these subjects. So just being open to those things is really what I would want to leave folks with is, be open to that collaboration. You don't need to do it yourself. You don't need to go alone. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Love it. And that's what I found myself in technology, cybersecurity, the K through 12 space. Even in this area, I love the collaboration because we're all, making that investment in what we really believe in, which is the young people that are going to be the folks that are supporting all of this in just a few short years. And again, super awesome to have talked about this topic with you guys. Colleen, thank you so much. Stephanie on the side, thank you as well. Joe, you're a rock star. We hope to hear more about the esports program. Well, and I want to hear more about that treadmill. That's a VR treadmill you got next to you. So
absolutely.
But if you guys want to know more about what we do at Insight or what they do at the Chandler Unified School District, please feel free to visit our websites and check us out. Thanks, Colleen. Thanks, Joe. And we're at solutions.insight.com. Thanks for joining us. Cheers.
Killed it.
Thank you.
Huge. Michaela texted me, she's like, she speaks so. Yeah.